Okay, I'm joined by Rodrigo Carvalho from Irist. The new album, Order of the Mind, is out now. Rodrigo, this lockdown is a pain in the arse for most of us, right? Yep. But having just released a debut record, really critically acclaimed and all the rest of it, like, this must be an absolute killer from where you're sat at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't expecting it. I remember the beginning of the reports on the virus. They didn't seem as alarming as it turned out to be. So we had some hope to go on tour, a little after, maybe a few months after, and it all stopped, as we all know. We're trying to look at the positives. We're trying to, create content like most bands are, trying to do, live streams, doing live sessions. We're working on it, but yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown. I mean, there's no other way around it. Still, though, we talked to our managers, and some of them said, there's a silver lining in it, and one of them is we're just starting now, so. Because we're starting now, perhaps that allows time for people to come in contact with content online, since most people are staying at home.
Yeah.
So we hope that that's the case. But for a band like us that spent the whole of 2018 in studio, demoing a lot, and then going to the studio, recording it, so we've been sitting on the songs for 3 years almost. Man, we want to play this live so badly.
That's the thing. Like, the thing that really stands out about the record that stayed with me when I heard it was, oh God, these songs are going to rip live. So I can't wait to see you on the road myself. In fact, one of the other things that I think when I hear the album is, while there is an overall vibe to Irist, like it's a really guttural, heavy feel throughout it, and there's a general vibe and feel. It kind of goes wherever it wants to as an album. It suggests that there's some pretty eclectic tastes within your band. Is that the case?
Yes, that's exactly the case. We feel like we don't want to be, held to any kind of like guidelines or sameness or anything when we write. We will always like to take risks and go whatever direction we feel like going. So yeah, that's totally the case. And also, everybody in the band has fairly different backgrounds in music. Our drummer likes a lot of like math rock, super technical stuff. Jason, our bassist Bruno, likes more folk music, traditional Latin American music. Pablo and I have more or less similar tastes. We also grew up with the 90s, Roadrunner stuff like Sepultura, Fear Factory, all that stuff, but also some punk, hard rock and hardcore in my case, in Pablo's case, more 80s music. And Adam likes a lot of stuff, a lot of indie stuff, alternative, alt rock, and some, metal too. But yeah, it goes all over the place. So I guess you can feel a little bit of everything there in the album.
I mean, when you mention 90s Roadrunner, I have to say I was always going to pay special attention to your band because Monty Connor is a friend. And of course he runs Nuclear Blast, and he signed pretty much everything cool that happened in the world of metal over the course of the last 20-30 years, and he was positively glowing about your band once he'd signed you and the record was coming. Like, how did that relationship come to be? And that must be a trip.
You said everything. It is a trip, especially, like I said, for us that grew up with the 90s Roadrunner. It's almost like it came full circle. We were like influenced by the bands he signed, and we came to be signed by him. So it's surreal. Like, that's the word right now in my head. It's like super surreal. Yeah, I even lost just on that Bible. I even lost what was the other question you had?
I mean, how did the relationship start? How did that begin?
Yeah, so basically, before even the band had this name, we started as a different project, and when the band, before I joined the band in the early stages, they recorded an EP, and they sent to Matt Bailey's, who's done some work with Mastodon and whatnot, bunch of other bands that we like. We like his sound a lot, and we had to mix it, and he really liked it, and he sent it to Monte Connor, and Monte Connor liked it, kept us in the radar, but it's still very early. And after that, the previous vocalist left, I joined, and when I joined the band, it was under a lot of stress because we had to write music and send it to Monty to hopefully impress him and hopefully be signed, because that relationship had already started but hadn't gone anywhere yet. So I joined in under a lot of pressure. Thank God, after we recorded 3 demos, sent it to him, and he absolutely loved it and signed us by then. So it was a huge relief off my back.
No pressure. Like if you'd have gone once you joined.
That was stressful times, but thank God it worked really well. I think we kept sending him the demos as we had been writing. The whole 2018 was like that. It was every day and weekends included in the studio, writing every song that you hear on Order of the Mind and a few other ones that we still don't know what to do with them. But so we kept sending him, and he was getting more and more excited. So that's kind of like how it happened.
How big a role does Atlanta play in things? Because you are from various different parts yourself. You're from Brazil. You mentioned earlier yourself that you guys are kind of from all over, but it's clear that there's a kind of sound that's from Georgia. Like you mentioned Mastodon as well. How big a role does that play? And how did you all come to be in this kind of one big melting pot of Atlanta, Georgia?
I think the impact that Atlanta had was because we liked the bands from here a lot, and we are inevitably influenced by them. In my case, I was less so than the rest of the band, but I think the rest of the band heard a lot of, Carlisa, Baroness. Mastodon at this point is kind of impossible not to have heard of them. And Cinemechanica, Horse, all these bands that are around here. There's a good quality coming out of here. There's a lot of good quality bands, and I think everybody just happened. And there might be one thing the way I become that everybody tends to really like Georgia bands. Baroness, Savannah, Carlisa, Savannah, Cinemechanica is Athens. Even as if you go back to REM, we still love them. So
I fucking love REM, man.
There you go.
I wanted to ask as well, because with you being Brazilian and with Brazil having its own heavy metal heritage, be that Sepultura or Angra or whatever way you want to go with it, do you feel like that is a certain flavour that you bring that is in any way influenced by where you come from in the first place?
That's a great question. It's always difficult because I think when that happens, it happens in a somewhat subconscious level. But it's funny, Sepultura is from Belo Horizonte, which is not too far from where I come from, actually, maybe 4 hours driving, which in Brazil is like nothing. Angra, on the other hand, is from further out from São Paulo, so they're a little more distant. In my state specifically, it's kind of known for punk and hardcore. There's a huge scene of bands that are nationally, very very big that come from my state, and that's a lot of what I grew up listening to too. So I think I bring some of that in when I write, but then again, it's kind of hard to tell because I also grew up listening to not only punk and hardcore from Brazil, but also from the UK, especially. All this Discharge and GBH and all that stuff. So it's hard to tell like where my Brazilian influence starts and where it ends.
So you mentioned the UK, and you went to the UK to record this record. Going from Atlanta to Southampton is quite a swing. Like, what was the experience like of recording this record? Did you turn up with the songs written, or was there any kind of more work done in the studio? What was the experience like of recording a debut record, especially with, those guys having hammered it out for years, yourself having joined in recent times? Like, what was the experience like of actually making a record together?
So, for many of us, this was, under a record label, this was the first time a lot of us were doing, but we thankfully had demoed the songs out, huge deal. We spent, like I said, the whole 2018 in the studio. And by the time we decided on a producer, and we sent all the demos, in this case was Lewis Johns from the Range Production House in Southampton. He said, man, there's not a whole lot to do here as far as like, song structure and whatnot, but we had fun. That was actually a good thing because we started having fun with like tones, finding, bells and whistles here and there to add to the songs. So it was incredible. We came across Lewis Johns because Adam, our guitarist, he came across Conjure.
Brilliant band, yes.
So the album, the drum sound on the album was pretty impressive to us. So we're like, oh, man, maybe we should also venture in a cultural experience, stay a month in the UK, get some life experience on the top of recording, with this guy who apparently, kills at the drum sound. So we went there, and it was amazing. We had the greatest time. Like, I think we'll never forget that time. Like, Lewis is just incredibly professional, super nice person. And we came back, like, he's our friend now. Like, we exchange messages every now and then. Like, a lot of the similar tastes, similar backgrounds. We end up, like, I have Marmite at home now. Like,
that's the effect it's had.
That was the effect. But yeah, I was super happy with the album. It was just great. Like, there's nothing that I would have done differently, as far as that's concerned.
Your personal journey is quite fascinating, Rodrigo, because you had given up music entirely for a decade prior to Irist, after being in bands for years. What was it that brought you back to the fore? Was it specifically you felt you and the guys that had formed the nucleus of Irist had something and could vibe something together? Was it specifically this project that brought you back, as opposed to just getting the itch to want to be in a band?
No, actually, it was a little before that. I was just incredibly, lonely and bored, and it turned out after some reflection that was like, man, I'm just not doing music. That's why I feel like shit all the time, So I have to find a way to, get to know people here and do music. Like I said, I had completely abandoned it. I thought I'd just never find the right people. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, go to school, finish school. So after I did that, I still wasn't very satisfied. I was like, maybe I should just die trying, And that's what I did. I just went online, and I came across a riff that Bruno and Pablo and Adam had put out, and I absolutely loved it. I was like, man, I have to do music with these guys. I don't care what it takes. And I was like incredibly rusty. Like, I was like like somebody who had done music in 10 years. and I bought a cheap audio interface, a cheap microphone, and I knew absolutely nothing about tracking anything. I mean, back in my day when you did music, you just, practice in the simplest possible ways. I mean, in South America, you don't have a lot of resources anyway to buy fancy equipment. But yeah, so I just learn quickly how to record stuff, send it to them, and they really liked it. And but I just could feel that wasn't the right time because it was so out of shape. And they moved on. I was still friends with them, kept contact with them. They moved on, got the previous vocalist, and I just started playing around. Started another project with an old friend of mine who I had been doing music before, like an industrial, like nasty, heavy project. Guys in the Netherlands who might go back to do a few things on the side now. But so I kept in contact, and eventually, after playing a bunch of small little bands here and there, like with garage, just like cover bands and stuff, I just needed to get in shape and hopefully find the right people, but never did. Eventually, we kind of gelled in with the guys. I was on the merch table the first time they played. I was just around all the time and getting better and better and better. And when I felt like I was ready, I was just doing music full time with my friend. Eventually, the other vocalist stepped down, and I joined in. But yeah, it was kind of like both in a way then, because like I would only do music if it was with them. Like if it wasn't, I wouldn't have invested as much time and effort if it wasn't with something that I felt was like really good, That was like, I mean, I quit 10 years ago because I wasn't happy. So if I had to go back, I had to go back for something good.
Yeah. And now that the album's finished and like we're here, it's released, it's out there, and being a new band and having a captive audience like this, what do you want people to know about the record? Like, here's the platform. What would you say about it to people that haven't heard it?
For people who haven't heard it, I think that there's a level of intensity in this album, and that I haven't heard, and I can say that from from being on the other side. When I wasn't in the band, watch the band play live. I see it wasn't the same songs or anything like that. I mean, now it's maybe even more, even heavier. But yeah, it's so intense. There's the energy that comes out when you see the band live, and even when you listen to the album, like you get pretty exhausted sometimes of so much tension and so much. It's like an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes you feel at ease, sometimes you feel like triumphant, and sometimes you come down from it. It's truly an aesthetic experience, I think. So I think that's what I think people should be excited about it. It's a roller coaster in a way.
And I've got to say, I think Harvester is one of the best songs I've heard all year. If you haven't heard the record yet, check it out. It's by Irist. It's called Order of the Mind. Rodrigo, thanks for your time today. And I like to think that you've come dressed exactly like me on purpose.
Actually, I gotta say, I had my beard like normally I have a beard, but I had an accident. I was grilling outside, and I didn't notice how the gauge was, and it was like gas coming out, and it exploded. It kind of burned my beard. It looked like claws. It was all weird, so I had to shave. So that's why I look like he was.
Sounds like something out of a Bruce Willis movie, mate.
When we do this, I'll look like Charles Darwin.
Rodrigo, thanks for your time today, man. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Cheers.